Industrial agriculture is one of the leading drivers of global carbon emissions. Monoculture cropping, heavy chemical inputs, and systems that prioritize resource extraction significantly impact the soil. Regenerative agriculture aims to reverse those impacts by engaging in farming that actively nurtures the soil and helps reduce the harsh transactional costs caused by our current model. Advocacy and education around these practices are vital to their activation. So how do students at GW feel about these issues? Ruby Klein is a manager of one of the GW student-run gardens. She is currently taking the Global Food Institute's new Regenerative Ag and Soil Health course, and she shares how an ag education has impacted her.
Learning about smallholder farmers and learning about regenerative farming, treating like soil health as the number one priority. Healthy soil is not only important for the food that we eat, but for carbon sequestration.
Would you say that your experience as a student, you've seen a lack of awareness about these issues? Was that surprising for you?
100%. The reason why I'm wanting to go into agriculture is because I was shocked with how much I didn't know about agriculture policy, practices, and whatnot. Growing up, I didn't grow up where there was like farms around me. I grew up in a city. I had no education on where my food came from. I think education is the most important thing for increasing awareness about issues and making sure that there's going to be people who genuinely care about reversing climate change and who care about local farms.
You worked on an aquaponic farm in Costa Rica.
I worked on a regenerative farm, but there was an aquaponic part of the farm.
What was that experience like?
I like hands-on work. You know, as a student, you're always like behind the scenes and you're writing papers. You're not ever in the field. And so that experience when I went abroad opened my eyes with what regenerative agriculture could be and how it could actually be successful. It takes a lot of work. It's a structural issue. So I think there needs to be structural change. I don't like the modern day farming system, but I think there is hope. Making people aware of regenerative agriculture and of sustainable farming practices and showing how people are genuinely being affected by these issues, especially marginalized communities.
So if regenerative farming and local agriculture mark a clear path towards healthier soil and a food supply that will feed generations to come, why aren't they more widely adopted?
It's not about what you know, it's what you can choose. Sometimes that choice has been taken away from you. We all have a role to play in realigning the way in which money and education and support flow through the food system so that farmers can make better choices. Not just better choices for themselves, but better choices for the soil, better choices for our ecosystems. And some of that has to do with where we target incentives, for sure. Some of it has to do with procurement policies that companies have, for sure. Some of it has to do with what we choose to eat. We all have a responsibility. One of the things that I'm interested in around how regenerative agriculture approaches these questions and these complexities is that many of the frameworks and many of the organizations working in regenerative agriculture start with the idea that change is profoundly difficult, and supporting farmers through change is a necessity if we want the outcomes on the other side. If we can stop thinking about interventions as being purely industrial, chemical, mechanistic, and look to biology and ecology as a way of understanding how we might address these, we may actually be able to get traction.
Farmers markets and CSAs offer opportunities for both local and regenerative operations to reach the public. This can support food access for underserved communities and help small-scale farms reach the market. To understand this relationship, I spoke with an expert in regional food systems about how education and access intersect, and how this region's indigenous roots tie into the story.
I'm Renee Catacalos. I am an advocate for local food systems, especially here in the Chesapeake region. I currently work as Director of Strategic Investments at Fresh Farm.
One thing coming into this project I realized is I really didn't know as much about agriculture as I thought I did. I think that's true of a lot of people in the general population, and I'd love to know why you think that there is such a knowledge gap between people and their food and how it's grown.
It's a distance gap in most cases. Most of us don't live near farms anymore. Many of us have never lived near a farm. There's no opportunity to see how things grow or to see the work that a farmer does. One of the reasons why it's important to bring food education into all aspects of our lives, where Fresh Farm does that in elementary schools with kids, and they do that with school gardens where kids can see how things grow. Something that's really interesting about our region here around Washington, D.C. area, like this is the oldest part of the country. This is where indigenous peoples first came into contact with colonizers from Europe. We consequently have a much longer history of erasure of that culture and of those foodways. Hopefully we'll be seeing opportunities for some of those things to come back. Piscataway Park, which is in Prince George's County, Maryland. The Accokeek Foundation runs that area there, and they are doing a lot of kind of interpretation to educate around Indigenous history. So there are some places where we can still learn something about it. Unfortunately, there's not as much hands-on or really kind of living examples of Indigenous food systems in, close by in our area.
In urban environments like DC, ag education can feel distant from the land itself. To explore that contrast, I spoke with a student environmentalist, Gilang Arifin, at UW-Madison, a land-grant university, with a long-standing and innovative ag program. He tells us how institutional investment in agriculture and opportunities shapes student engagement.
My name is Gilang Arifin. I'm studying environmental science with a focus on ecology. And on the side, I'm a butcher at the school's meat plant. Double on the side, I'm helping one of the greenhouses design an aquaponics system.
And I'd love to know your perspective on agriculture at a state school like UW.
It's really cool. It's really good. There's just so many people who are passionate about agriculture. The labs here are very well funded, very well supported, like especially the agriculture ones. Being able to see awesome dairy and food firsthand makes a guy like me just really want to be a part of it.
Why do you think there's such a knowledge gap between people and their food?
Especially with a lot of food systems in the US being very volume based rather than quality based. Maybe people don't really want to hear about things going on with their food that might not be super favorable, but it gets them a lot of food. If you see these other documentaries about our cattle system, it's kind of gross and it makes you want to not know about it.
Why do you think people ought to know more about systems like regenerative agriculture?
I really do believe that knowledge is power. I'm huge into aquaponics. I love fish, I love agriculture, I love sustainability, and it combines all those three in a really beautiful way. I find it so crazy that we have these billionaires trying to go explore space right now. They're putting all these resources into trying out all that stuff, and our world is dying. We really gotta push towards sustainability. If we don't, then who will,
The seeds planted by an agricultural education must be nurtured to foster a population passionate about advocating for farmers, food insecure communities, and regenerative practices. To fight the uphill battle that farmers face in operating more sustainably begins with ensuring that agricultural education reaches the general public so that we can use our collective power to incentivize change.